Wobble, lobble, wobber. Wobble, lobble.
This is what life looks like when you live without limits.
All right, we have a phone. We have a smoothie. Because today is a little different. We're going through my Snapchat series that I did about a year and a half ago. It's called Without Limits, and it was an original series on the Snapchat Discover feed. Now, just like 90% of people in this world, they say, Jeremiah, what is this Snapchat Discover feed you're talking of? Nobody has any idea what this is. I feel like most of you guys aren't using Snapchat, and if you are, you're not using it for this specific feature where Snapchat was releasing original content. This whole series came about, and the opportunity came about by me editing full-time actually for Yes Theory. They're a very, very popular YouTube channel. If you don't know who they are, you're under a rock, and you should stop right now and go check them out because they're way cooler. But I was an editor for them full-time here in Venice Beach. It's the reason why I moved out here originally. We're neighbors, really good friends of mine today. But when I was editing for them for full-time, they were doing a Snapchat original series. And in that time, I met some really cool producers that they were basically Yes Theory's Snapchat producers. And so when I left working with Yes Theory, I had some good relationships there, and I grabbed a beer with a guy named Patrick Pope. He was the Yes Theory producer at the time. He basically helped kick my show off and get my show approved through Snapchat, and is the only reason why it saw the light of day. I'm not going to bore you too much about the details of the series because we're going to hop into it, but overall it was an adventure travel, original content series where I took my best friends around the world to kind of complete photography jobs, and then we always found some it was like very scripted. Snapchat like was really forcing that on me, but I did my best to shoot it in the most authentic way I could, and I also edited about 80% of it. I had an assistant editor, which was awesome, but we'll dive into one of the episodes, my favorite episode. There's 7 of them, and then I'll also show you how you can find all the rest of the episodes, and if you want to see any other episodes on this series, let us know in the comments and we'll make sure to dive into that specific episode. Basically, the workflow of this whole entire series was I was the main shooter and editor. And if I ever needed assistance or a second angle, I could either hire a friend or Snapchat would basically supply me with a second shooter. I also had an assistant editor during all of this, and he really just built the story and then left gaps for me to do montages. And the story was based off of what I had queued up and what I had shot. And so I would tell him what happened when I shot it, what I thought the story arc was, and then he would lay it out, leave the gaps, I would edit the montages, and then we'd go through about a round or 2 of revisions, and then that would be the episode. We shot the whole season, 7 episodes, and then it finally aired and released about 1 week at a time. We got weekly analytics back, which were crazy. I think basically like anywhere from 2 to 5 million people were watching it within a 24-hour period. And this isn't because it was like the most groundbreaking. It's cool content. I'm so proud of it, but it was because the platform's so big and it went out on a global scale. But in terms of Snapchat and original content, we always came in at number 1 or 2 as like top performing content on the original series, on the Discover platform. And I think 1 week we came in as like the 3rd best content, but it was always like me and Vice going back and forth. And once upon a time there was like a conversation of selling the show to Vice. Never happened, and I'm glad it didn't. So the first one we're jumping into today is actually one of my favorite episodes of the entire series. It's with my good friend Sam Kolder. It's the 2nd episode of the series, and we actually went shark diving without cages with bull sharks in Fiji. And it's the sketchiest thing you could possibly do on earth. I kid you not, it is so dodgy. Craziest part about all of this is that Sam and I kid you not, booked flights to Fiji 4 hours before our flight took off. Like, I was basically packing while I was like screaming at someone on the phone to like my credit card numbers to like book this whole thing. And then Sam was coming from like West Hollywood, and he had to fly back to Canada, and he had to have like his passports and all these numbers had to be crossed over, and it was crazy. But we packed as fast as possible. We met at the airport and we did it, and it was just like, I can't believe this is happening. So the way you would find this episode or this entire series is open up your Snapchat app, and then you would go to the top search section and you would just type in Without Limits, like any search bar or like Google, and then you'll see shows at the bottom and it says Without Limits. Bam! You click on that thing and you have an amazing hidden landing page. I feel like this is like the cheat code to like a game and you like type in a few things and you like get a whole new side of a platform you had no idea existed. That's my show, The Cheat Code of Snapchat. Season 1, the first one is this the best job ever? I will give a full disclaimer. I did not choose any of the thumbnails or any of the titles of these because Snapchat was convinced that they had it dialed on how to get the most clicks and the clickbait hacks of everything, and I was just like, I don't buy it at all. Dope. So you get this landing page, you check out episode 2, click on it, warning, this will freak you out. Has nothing to do with sharks. What a bad title. Come on, guys. So the production of this whole series was actually super weird because, one, it was shot vertically, and everyone's like familiar now with shooting vertically. This is 2017, 2 years ago. Think about anything you were shooting other than cell phone footage that was vertical. Nothing. And here we were, like a full production, a full office, a full application that was trying to film original content in a vertical platform that had never been done before. So there's no mounts, there's no rigs, there's no anything. I kid you not, I've been stopped like 3 times while we were shooting this, and people like said, hey, like, I hope you know you're recording sideways. Like you're holding your DSLR sideways, and you said you're filming video, like why are you doing that? And I was just like, obviously, like this is not convenient to hold this camera like this, like come on. But people felt obligated to tell me. Another weird thing about this was that the whole show is broken up into 15 seconds because Snapchat wanted to allow users to be able to click through in advance through the episode if they got bored. And then also it allows them to slot in ad space in 15-second increments depending on how much time you've spent on Snapchat. So it was weird because the whole episode had to be entertaining as a whole, tell a story arc, but also each 15 seconds had to play in its own like engaging thing to get people to the next story. Let's run through the whole episode and I will give you a little bit of the behind the scenes on how we did it. One thing that was really crazy about this whole experience with Snapchat was that they wanted me to do like studio interviews like this or voiceovers in a studio sitting down, which if you guys have seen any of my other content, I'm always walking while I'm talking. So this is like super weird. And it's hard to like crush lines as it is, but then to be sitting down and doing it where I'm not good at it was super weird as well. And then I was sitting with like 4 people behind the camera staring at me super awkwardly, and I would like, and they like treated me like I was like a celebrity, not a crazy celebrity, but like I would show up and there'd be a producer be like, okay, I've got a Red Bull, a Monster, a coffee, and espresso because I just didn't know what kind of caffeine you liked. And I was just like, this is so extra. Like I'm just here to read a couple lines. Like, and then I found out it wasn't a couple lines. It was like this massive 2-page thing of lines that was just fake. And I was like, okay, there's got to be a better way to do this. And we found a middle ground, but in the early episodes, it was like really hard. What's funny now is that it pays off here I am sitting. I'm not delivering lines, but I'm going through a story arc and I'm telling a process and a story. And I believe I'm so much better at it now because I worked super hard on this. And I ended up having a voiceover coach with Snapchat. They paid for me to have a voiceover coach. It's because I got in a massive argument with like a producer about the whole, I've never gotten in an argument with anyone I've worked with. And I was just like, this sucks for me as a process, as content, and just like a brand. It's not a vibe at all. And I just told somebody, I was like, I don't want to work with this person. We still work together, but we got a voiceover coach and we worked through it. But yeah, so that was a weird part of the process, and I think a little bit different than you'll see from any of my content that's on this series. But I think it's cool because it formalized it a little bit. The whole concept too was that I was like getting hired by clients to go shoot a lot of this, which half the time was true. And we just piggybacked a Snapchat episode off the back of it, but sometimes it wasn't true, and we just kind of like try to fit that into the storyline. Something I walked away from this filming this whole episode or this whole series was Snapchat would give me best practices of what was working online to keep people engaged. And the best thing that I walked away with was on-screen text and then multi-layered or multi-screen clips. And you'll see a lot of that utilized here. And I kind of adopted the on-screen text and fast flashing into all my other content. So when you see captions on screen flashing super quick, that's something that I'm taking from this Snapchat original series and implementing into my Chainsmoker work, into my lyric videos, into vlogs, into everything that I do. And I think there's a huge increase in viewership there. Now you guys are gonna go watch my other videos and see it and be like, oh, this is Jeremiah's little shady trick to get me to watch it, but you should still watch it. My favorite part in all these are the montages that all my guests get. And Sam Kolder's is actually phenomenal. I think he actually edited this part.
Most important.
Kind of a bad voiceover though. I love that I call him the Jason Bourne of social media. I feel like that's the most accurate way to describe Sam even today. Something that I learned that was super important, that's been so valuable like years after this whole entire series, was the art of getting music approved. That's like the hardest thing, right, for videographers. If you're watching this, you've probably DM'd a videographer saying, hey, how do you get music cleared? And most of the time, I just have a relationship with a music artist because I'm working in the music industry, or I do the work to DM the artist I want to work with, and I don't go after massive artists. I go after smaller, up-and-coming artists that have some cool songs that maybe aren't as big or popular. But when I was working with Snapchat, I basically spent like 2 weeks finding or just messaging every manager and everything and saying, hey, do you own all the rights to your music? If so, I'd love to feature it on the Snapchat episode. We're gonna get millions of views in 24 hours. We can put your name on it and all that. I went to Snapchat begging them to have the on-screen reference of the song and the artist name and the little audio wave that was squiggling to be clickable, and we found a way to sync up users' Spotify accounts to have a Spotify Snapchat playlist. When you went on your Spotify, you would see a Snapchat playlist, and all you would do during the episode is click the thing and it would automatically add it without disrupting your viewing experience. But then after the episode, if you went to Snapchat, you would go and see that that song was added to your Spotify. Fast forward 2 years later, Instagram is now putting music on stories, and it's exactly what I said. But 2 years ago, Snapchat was like, no, that's not like really the direction we're going. And I was just like, you guys, come on. This is the direction you're going. You just don't know it. It probably already was in the works, but I'm just claiming that to be my idea. All these artists that you see are my friends and I've toured with, or I've met on tour, I've worked with. A lot of people asked me on this series if I did the on-screen text, and I didn't. I didn't do any of the on-screen text or the animations. It's some of the best that Snapchat said they had ever seen. And that's because of my assistant editor, who is crushing those. Illenium, you'll see so much Illenium music on this, and it's because Illenium owns all of his music. I'm good homies with them, and they just gave me like 40 songs that were totally cleared. And I still use Illenium's music today.
Quiet.
This part of the episode, with me saying I'm freaking out, and it like wasn't until 10 minutes of whatever.
So when I first get in the water,
That was the hardest voiceover of all time. That was where like the biggest conflict happened. If you think it's cheesy, let me know in the comments. If you don't think it was cheesy, let me know, because I'm indifferent about it. I could see how it sounds natural, but in the moment it was we worked hard for that one to seem natural. I edited this last montage, which was super weird to edit like a fast-paced montage vertically. But these sharks, like, this is so real. Like, there's massive, massive sharks. Something crazy with this one was they told us to not hold our GoPro out because they would think the sharks would think it was food. They're feeding them down there, and they would think it's food. And the guys that are feeding them, they have like protection on their hands for the teeth. And I had Sam like take a photo of me, and I had my hand out, and his eyes just like freaked out. And I was like, what's going on? I turned around, and a shark was like right here with me, and he like tapped my GoPro, and I flinched, and then he got scared because I flinched, and then he like swam away super fast. I ended up running out of oxygen because I was laughing so hard. I had to go up early. But that was like a hilarious moment for me and Sam. But anyways, there's other shark footage, which is cool. Me and Sam went on a lot of really cool adventures this whole entire trip. We went and got like jet skis to all these other islands. We explored pretty much the whole circle of the island, which is like takes you like 8 hours to drive around. We had a ton of extra time to go explore around. There's this boat at the end of it. If you ever go to Fiji or near Fiji, go to it and go to Cloud 9. It's a restaurant floating boat where they serve up pizzas, and there's like a full bar there, and you're in the middle of the ocean. It's gorgeous. It's beautiful. We took a fishing boat out there and convinced the staff to let us stay there after everybody was sent home. And so they were like cleaning the boat, and there was normally there's like 20, not 20, there's like 5 other boats like tied up to it, and there's people walking all around, and we got the place totally to ourselves. So we have like some amazing drone footage from it, and it's just like an all-time location, and it's a must to go to. Overall, this was an amazing experience. It was honestly once in a lifetime, I feel like, because the platform was so big at the time, and it was so a part of pop culture. I was fresh out of college, and this was such a buzzword of a company. It still is. I still work with Snapchat. I shoot a lot of digital branded content for them, for their spectacles, or like the ads that they use for their spectacles. I shoot a lot of that. Just like original content, original series, like that is a buzzword for content creators and for Netflix and for networks and for a lot of, if I could go to them and say I've shot an original series for Snapchat, like that sounds amazing. It's probably why you've clicked on this video. And it is amazing. Like, no, I believe that that's what's set me apart early on, because I was a content creator that didn't have a big following, but I was working with large brands doing things that nobody else had really done. You don't know any other creators that have had an original series with Snapchat. And I think that's something to walk away from this video with, is everyone is looking for the same brands to partner with. Like, everyone wants to work with DJI, everyone wants to work with GoPro, and nobody's looking at the small clothing company. I think the weird thing about this was that it was like the biggest of the biggest, not like the off-brand hidden one, which I believe is just like a gold mine. I don't believe that I do that all the time. Obviously, it's really cool to work with a globally known brand, but I think for you guys to walk away with is work with the small guys. Go find the off-brand company that's making the same action camera, and just own that market and become the best creator for them. I just did a small video with my friends at Cuts Clothing, and a lot of you probably don't even know what Cuts Clothing is, and I don't care, because they have amazing t-shirts, they're really cool dudes, and they pay me for my work. And that's what we want as content creators, right? So go out and do that. And I think this was a huge win for me, because I was working with a brand that no one else had touched, and I was owning that space. So do that with whatever you have access to. And if you don't know what that is, spend a lot of time, spend a year finding brands that nobody knows of that you can work with, and just crush. Thanks for watching, guys. We got another episode queued up for you next week, and it's gonna be a hot one.
This is what life looks like when you live without limits.